connected into your reading, connected to your writing. And so I'm excited to hear what we all have to say this week as we go through our slides. But the question is, are we truly challenging ourselves to seamlessly incorporate STEM throughout the learning day? STEM should just fold in with the rest of what we're doing on a daily basis. And like I said, it could be easily incorporated into reading or connected to reading. And that's kind of where I start most of the time, as far as how am I going to put more STEM into my day, or how can I make my day exciting for my kids? And it starts with my reading. And I think, okay, these are the reading skills that I need to incorporate. These are the standards I need to cover this week. What are some things that from the real world, what real world experiences can I give my kids so they can make those connections, and also connect why they need to know the ing sound? Why do they need to know families that have I and K? Why do they need to know open syllable? It's to read words like pink and flamingo. So that's one reason that I thought that's something they see at the zoo, but they probably don't know that animal. They probably don't know a lot about that animal. So I think that might be something they'd be interested in learning about. And so I bring it in to that day, and I'm already doing STEM when I incorporate something that they want to learn more about. So one example would be, we're learning and researching about flamingos, but they need to know the vocabulary on how to do that. Instead of bringing in a worksheet, I looked up a unit on TPT and I said, I don't want to do a worksheet, but I need to know the vocabulary they're going to need to read these books. So I pulled out the vocabulary from a worksheet, and I just quickly cut and paste in pink flamingo pictures, things they ate, predators they might have, things, the environment where they might live, their habitat, pictures of those things, and then word cards. And then they had to collaborate as a group. In this first slide, our first picture, you can see it. They had to collaborate a group and try to figure out, based on their prior knowledge, what do these words really mean? And so they're doing the investigation, they're doing the thinking, and then they have to discuss that as a group. I give them about 5 minutes, and then we discuss it together. So I know the girls are also doing lots of great things in their classroom to integrate STEM. Karisa, what's going on in the picture that you posted?
So I love this picture. We talk a lot about unexpected joy and things that we don't see happening in our day or happening outside of school based on what we're learning about in the classroom. And so we read a book early in the year called Out of My Mind. And, you know, it's a wonderful story if you've not read it. It really is an empathy builder in the classroom. Talks about people who learn differently than us. And the main character, Melody, communicates differently than most of the students that, you know, most of the peers that these students come in contact with. And so she has a communication device. And so these girls in the picture started studying American Sign Language. And they have been working on this project probably since August or September. And they just shared it last week. They made a slide, like collaborating at home, made a slide for every student and took individual screen grabs of signing each student's name in the class. So here's just an example. They are signing Thomas's name from class, and then they put someone on there doing Taekwondo because they know Thomas takes Taekwondo classes. I mean, I couldn't have invented this project if I tried. And they said, we have such a big surprise for the class. Can we carve out some time to share? And we went through this. I mean, and I'm sitting back just with tears thinking, oh my gosh, I cannot believe this came from literacy, a book we're reading in class, and to watch the other students' faces and to watch them start to sign and practice their name and practice other kids' names. And the thought that went into it with finding a picture that represented that student, I just was taken aback. And so the unexpected joy, and this is total STEM integration, starts at literacy, and they took it to the next level. And so when I think about what I love most about the job we do, It is this, because you don't even see it coming. But when it does, this is what keeps the momentum going and keeps you excited to teach.
Yeah, and it's building community in your room. I mean, it's amazing, and that's where that you took, a book that you say is packed with empathy, and then your kids, because you built a community, know each other and care about each other, and you know that you've arrived to where you want your room to be when it's like that. And in the high school, we I see that, when a kid is absent and they're like, "Where's so and so?" And they're like counting heads in the room like we're a wolf pack, and we got to just know where's so and so. And so that's amazing. My middle one here, I teach a STEM class. So in many ways, it feels it's very natural to fold it in because my curriculum is very good. But I will tell you this, it would be very easy for me to just teach, to just get up there and teach. The middle picture, we're making models of how muscles work. And I have to really, on some of these topics that are hard, just really make sure to keep myself out of their learning pathway and let them figure out how am I going to show with these things how a muscle moves. And because it's folded in rather than me being the lecturer, they have to figure it out. And then for the audience out there, I have been greatly influenced by the work that Chris and Dayna and I have done this year. And one of the things I added to this project this year that I had never done before was at the end they had to do a flip to explain to me in less than 2 minutes how their model worked. And I got the absolute best feel for what they understood because of that video, more than just building the model. And so I think that all of us feel like you have to let it flow. And that means sometimes you got to pause and give those girls that room and say, you show the room. And sometimes, again, I can assess them through a flip. And I've really started, not only they assess, but they got to watch some other people's and they got to comment on other people's. So we have a sharing going on. So the girls brought up reading. I think that it's intrinsic to think reading's a part of everything through elementary school, but reading is a part of everything in the high school. My picture's the middle one. This is Jake. It was his birthday. It was his 16th birthday. And for his birthday, we had this huge reading assignment, but they didn't know it was a reading assignment, but he was giving me that look because I told him it was his birthday and I need a picture to show his mom what he was doing. But you can see on the paper in front of him the colors there. What my kids were doing this day, it is the most successful students on our national exam are our best readers. They're the ones that can pull that information. So we have to give them a lot of experience with reading. And so what they were doing is they were going through patient charts and they had to decide how serious the injuries and illnesses that their patients had to decide who goes first in the emergency room. So you can even just see the colors, right? That there's a green in there, that the kid can wait, the person can wait, but the reds have got to be seen right away. So really what I did was I snuck in a huge reading because it was an experience with patients. They didn't even know that's what they were doing. So you guys want to share what's going on here, Karisa?
Sure. So just reading challenges, right? Incorporating ways to make reading more engaging and fun. And like you said, there's so much reading involved when you integrate the sciences and social studies and research, and really teaching kids how to function as an adult. Because I mean, if I want to find out more about something I don't know a lot about, I'm getting on Google, I'm looking up articles, and I'm not reading them cover to cover. But when we're teaching kids how to research, we need to teach them how you pull out some main points and you move on to a new article. And I mean, that's covering all of the ground for everything. And you don't even realize it as a teacher, and they don't even realize what they're doing. I know Dayna's going to talk about Epic in a minute and how she uses it in class, but we even talked about using Flip, having kids practice reading. Nobody else has to watch their video, but to sit and then, give themselves feedback, like look back at the video, notice where they were less fluent, find that part back in the book. That's a great way just to hear themselves. They don't always hear themselves reading, and reflect on that and have the text in front of them. And Dayna, what's going on in your picture? And tell how you like to use Epic, because I know that that's just a huge tool that is available to all teachers for free. And I think that more people for sure should be maximizing its potential.
Well, Epic is amazing because you can use it in the beginning of first grade, my students are on there. And it's such a great way for them to research on their own and be independent with technology. Just like you were mentioning, technology is so important. It's helping transform our students for the future. And if we're not embracing that and folding that into our reading, we're doing them a disservice because we're not preparing them. And that is one of the best ways to really incorporate STEM into what we're doing is giving them those opportunities. Epic is so wonderful because I can go in, I can get it for free up until 3:00 for all of my students. If you want to share the information with parents, they can get on by paying a small amount for after school. But I don't even do that. I just literally sign my kids up, have them in through my Google Classroom, and then I go in really quick in the morning. I say, okay, like for instance, today we were researching about bunnies today because we were dropping the Y and adding IES, and that is something that is tangible to them, something real life that they can apply that skill to. And so I wanted to put books on there that were at each kid's level. So I can do that. I can assign ones that will read to them if they can't figure out the words. I can assign to my higher kids books about bunnies that are more almost like a chapter book, or is a type of nonfiction that has an actual pages throughout that they have to, maybe they are wanting a certain topic that they want to research on bunnies, and they can kind of go to that by looking at the front or the index. So it is such a great tool to have, and I just really suggest everybody to go to getepic.com and just sign up as an educator because it's free. One thing that you can do is, yes, use Epic. We need to remember that basals are just tools. We can use them to help us drive our program and drive those standards, but not always is it needed in order to fulfill the standard that we need to be met. If it's not going to help us connect it with other things, then we can use it when it does. So Epic helps me bring in reading with other with skills I want my kids to gain if the basal's not bringing that to them. But sometimes you have to read the story at least once that week, right? Or you have to show that story because your corporation wants you to. So in the first picture, my students are driving cattle by using Ozobots. So that's connecting into the story, but connecting it to some form of technology. And they had to figure out a way together, collaborate together. How are we going to get the Ozobots from all of the horses that were on the paper? So they were just four printed out horses. They received 4 Ozobots. At the end of the butcher paper, there was a picture of the ranch. And so they were the ranchers. They had to drive the cattle down to the ranch after investigating, after researching about that in the text that we read in our basal, but then in other texts from Epic and videos that they watched on their Google so in their Google Classroom. So they were able to work together to do that and design that. Again, as we move on to the next slide, it's so great to bring in that technology through Flip, like Karisa was mentioning. I love that idea about them reading and listening to them because they don't think about how they're stopping or not rolling like a ball when they read, that kind of thing. So that is an excellent idea. But when it comes to writing, how do we make it more creative? So, one of the ways that during our Dr. Seuss unit, my kids, played with Oobleck. You can see that in the first picture that this student did a great job on his, Flip about Oobleck, but they just wrote 3 similes They played with it, they touched it, they wrote 3 similes about oobleck, and then they took that and they designed their own flip. And some of them pretended that they were in this world of oobleck, and they were saying how gross it was, and I can't believe I'm here, and comparing it to like nacho cheese or how it felt, and it was so cool. And Chris has shown me so many great things with Flip, and one is how easy it is to print out a QR code. I just copied and pasted it right in here. This is his that he did, and I can share the QR code with my parents. I can put it on their writing assignment that they did and put it in the hallway, just cut it out and stick it on the writing assignment, or just post it somewhere for other kids to see. They can to build that classroom community. They can comment on each other's in Flip and tell them how awesome they did on their video. And then today, Chris has shown me Book Creator like, I don't know, 5 years ago. And today my kids with bunnies, they created their own bunny books on Book Creator, and it was so great. And I think Chris has more information about that and how she integrates it. But over to the right is a jam that each group had to come up with their own jam with stickies of adjectives. We were working on adjectives of the popcorn that we were eating that day because we had popcorn day. So they worked together to come up with adjectives, and then later on they took that and did a writing piece. So how are you using Book Creator now, Karisa?
So I love it. It's free. So you get 30 books per class. I've used it enough to kind of figure out a little hack with it. So because they only really get 1 book each, my kids will just skip a page in the book they're writing and start a new book. The ones that are really into it and they want all the books, they'll just skip a couple pages, start a new title page, and go into a new book.
Great.
What I love, if you've never used it, you can see the bookshelf all at once. So you can see every kid's book on display. Everybody can view each other's books. So just some quick ideas, like in math, I've had kids teach a concept like, hey, if fractions, if that was your favorite concept to learn, how would you teach that using a book? We've talked about the ABCs of 4th grade, we've also talked about just, hey, creative writing. Write about anything. We've started a lot of things in class where I'm just having them type something in a Google Doc, and they're like, can I transfer this to Book Creator? I want to actually turn this into a chapter book. So really anything and everything, another free resource that's great. It's a great way for them to express themselves. I'll have kids say, I know we have free time right now. Is Book Creator okay? I'm like, it's always okay to write a book. Of course, you don't even have to ask. So anyway, just another great tool. The picture at the top in the middle where you can see the student looking at the pie chart. So this is actually a math project, but I'm really proud of their work. We're learning about line plots and frequency tables and just collecting data and analyzing data. And they wrote their own surveys. And then they turned the surveys into Google Forms. Literally, probably with 5 minutes of quick instruction from me, these kids are kicking out major, awesome Google Forms. So much so that they have learned how to change the greeting at the end or the closing at the end that usually says, thank you for submitting the survey. This little boy in particular, he was surveying people's favorite dinosaurs. And so he wrote at the end something like, you're rawsome or something like play on roar and awesome. And that was his final message at the end.
That's cool.
The things that I may have thought before, like, no way is there a 4th grader ready to do this. Then they linked up all their surveys. Everybody took everyone's surveys, and then they had to crunch their data at the end. And now they're building line plots and frequency tables, but, there was writing involved with that. Yeah. And they had to figure out what their options were and how they were going to limit people. And so I'm just like, man, math and writing and just being able to look at data and understand what it means as 4th graders. I'm like, you guys better go home and show this survey to everyone you know. Like the fact that, and I'm thinking about how I taught this 5 years ago, we didn't have the technology. So everyone's just making a poster at the end and everyone's handwriting all of their data. And that's fine for the time that we were in. But man, we have access to this technology now. We need to be utilizing it. And, they had to learn how spreadsheets work. It just amazing things I cannot imagine learning when I was a fourth grader. So Elaine, what do you have for us?
Well, the way we do a lot of writing. And I think that sometimes we don't think that in science. For my classes, I don't teach, they research. So, the basics of writing, you can see the girls in their group, they're researching, trying to figure out. We're currently doing a project where they have to find a real world problem and create a app that helps with a public health issue. And so we're kind of at the tail end of those. But I'm like Karisa. Even 3 years ago, I had them present this to me in a different way than I do now. I'm doing, as I said before, I'm doing a lot more flip with my kids, and I recommend this to anyone who wants a good product. Anytime that they are presenting a video to me, whether it's a screenshot or one that they are acting a scene out, I always have them write a script. So it's writing, right? It has to have a script. We've done podcasts with scripts as well, that you've got to write it well in order for it to get a good product. So I do a lot of writing with that. We obviously have to learn how to write scientifically. We write a lot of scientific lab, not even full reports like you would think when you were in high school or college, pieces, summary pieces or analysis of our data. We do a lot of that. But even, I was talking to ladies the other day that I've done flip a lot, like Karisa's done it with the sticky notes. It works great for us to share information, or Dayna has, to share information amongst each other. But I actually have pulled an idea for the next project I'm doing in HBS straight from Dayna, when she's shown the posters her kids make on Jamboard. And so why can't we pull down pictures? Why can't we create a poster that's digital on Jamboard, use it a little bit differently? Each one of this next project is parts of a race and how your body burns energy in 5 different parts of the race. So as they flip through each of the different pages, they will get the full story. They all have access to it. They all can take notes from it. And then I'm actually this year, Dayna and Karisa, when we met to talk about this live stream, Karisa threw out there, Elaine, you should try Book Creator. And then Dayna said, hey, you could create children's books. So I'm actually going to make my capstone project this year in HBS, which is Human Body Systems. It's a project-based anatomy and physiology. We're going to create a book. And so that's how we're going to end our year, creating books to share with Dayna's class. And so it's, again, I've got them writing in a million different ways. They don't even realize at this point how many ways I have them writing. But there are certain things, especially, I know that you guys probably see it as well, but especially as we get to the high school, the kids think that when they write for me, they don't have to write like it's English. Like they will, lowercase I and no punctuation and like give me emojis and text. And so we really have to be forceful, I think, across all parts of, especially high school, that listen, we have to be able to write in English the way that Dayna taught you, the way that Karisa taught you as you grow up, and that citing of material in science. We have to do that as well. It's not just an English thing. It's not just a history thing. And so writing, I think, across all subjects, if we can integrate it in and they don't realize that we have, is huge. The other piece, we talk about it every week, is the real world experience. And so I'm going to very briefly talk about this picture on the right. Some of you guys might see this picture and know exactly what's going on. We were trying to learn about a respiratory system, and trying to learn the volume of air that your lungs can hold. And so what we did was, this is spirometry. We tested lung capacity. Any one of you that have been tested for asthma has done this test. My kids could not only do this test, they can read your graphs for this test, and they can tell you whether your capacity of your lungs is in the range that you need to be further tested for asthma. So with this, my kids totally remember how all this works because they experienced it. They know when I breathed in what it meant, when I pushed all the air what it meant. They know that they can't possibly get all the air out. And they understand how all this corresponds with the real world. It was through a case study of a girl, but they got to each test themselves. Okay, so Karisa, what you got going on in your picture on the left?
So we had a pilot visit us in 4th grade. We cover forces in motion, and it's hard concept understanding how, lift and planes fly and drag and how gravity works. And so I found a pilot to come in, and just happened to be a female pilot, which was pretty awesome because she shared with the kids that only 4% of pilots are females. So she's trying hard to recruit other girls to get passionate about this. But anyway, to have a pilot come in and explain it so much better than me, right? I'm kind of a nervous flyer and I've never flown a plane. Thank goodness I've never flown a plane. So anyway, just the experience. And I was thinking about this today because quite honestly, it's all a balance, right? Everything in life is a balance. You cannot do it all. So when we're talking and sharing these things, there are things that we have cut out in our day-to-day and just been okay with. Okay. I cut out the hours at a copy machine trying to get copies in for the week. And I cut out some meaningless grading that doesn't really matter. And I fill that time, and I know the ladies fill that time with then trying to track down these experiences and create really meaningful things. And so you got to cut things out. It's just like your personal life and trying the home work-life balance. Like sometimes some things have to give and you have to be okay with that. So there are some things that I was just okay letting go of. And then I have the energy to pour myself into trying to create these experiences and being motivated to say, I'm not just okay with this piece. Now I want to do this piece. And now I want to, you know what I mean? Like you cannot do it all. So if you are grading those meaningless things right now and you are waiting at the copy machine, like cut some of that stuff out so that you can create these experiences because you won't regret it. We've talked just recently about how it just ends up snowballing. Like you'll do one thing and you're like, that was so amazing. I had 0 off-task behavior. I didn't have any late assignments. Everybody participated. That you'll see the value. You won't see why you should ever go back to the way that you were doing things. And I just, Mondays are hard, and I was thinking about the balance, and, I just wanted to bring it up today because we are going through everything everyone else is right now, but I think we meet a lot. So having that community together to bounce ideas off one another and helping each other understand that it's okay to let go of some of the things and that you really can't do it all.
Well, and I think that what we've been saying also is that they gain all of those same things from the experiences. They gain the writing experience. They gain the reading experience. They gain all these things when they are engaged in what they're doing at the time. And you have to just stop and think, okay, it snowed today. Right? It snowed today. Why am I up here talking about something else? So I'm just like, okay, I have a cup at your table. I have a thermometer at your table. We're going to walk out right now real quick. You're going to grab that snow. But before you go, there's also a sticky note at your table. On the board, the question is, how long will it take for your chunk of snow that you dig up? Everybody has the same cup, same thermometer. How long will it take for yours to melt? My kids had no idea. They had no idea. They had guesses from 2 minutes all the way to 4 hours. They had no idea. They don't know. They don't have the concept of time yet. So it was such a great thing for them to see what time is really about, and that what the temperature of snow is. They could keep checking because it was on their table. And we just kept going on with our day. And then they were able to, that's like the joy of that moment, right? It's just taking that moment and running with it. And then so many other questions came out of that, and we were able to continue that the next day. So it's great to have those real world experiences. Another way, and I think I've mentioned it before on a stream, is I take the opportunity anytime there are vocabulary words or there is something I want my students to really fully understand. I put some experiment type things on a tray, and I use trays a lot. So then it's great for behavior management where it's already set up. They just grab the tray and use it. But if it's a word where it has to do with like motion or movement or something to do with where I can help them discover the meaning of that word, without doing a worksheet or doing some kind of vocabulary assignment, then they're doing that. So if it's and it's just something simple, so you can see the kids in the middle, they are discovering on their own what that word means. So it's just taking and engaging everyone, and not one person was, like running around the room or yelling or talking about something else. When we are doing something where they are discovering then everyone is engaged at the time of their learning.
Yeah, and any activity you can do where you can get everyone in the room involved. The picture on the left, we played a game with surge capacity. I think games are awesome, especially where they're not like combative, where they work together, right, to solve a problem. I find that when I take my big kids over to work with any age group, any kind of a STEM challenge where they're working as a team to try to do something better than someone else, they're fully engaged. And so I think anytime they're solving a problem together, and you can get every kid engaged, it is worth so much time and effort to do something like that beyond you standing up at the front trying to give them instruction. So the girls here, again, they're playing a game, and every kid in my room, I love this day, every kid in my room is into this to try to save these people. And so it's amazing. I think you see even in the middle picture, Dayna's group, how engaged those kids are in like what is on here. Same thing in the right-hand picture. So I don't know. What do you think about engaging there, Karisa?
So on the right, we had turned our community space into a Starbucks reading cafe. So she's reading with her first grade reading buddy, but the mentorship, the relationship she can develop. So she has right next to her the little book menu she created in Canva. Again, very little instruction. These kids are using Canva. I mean, they pulled in pictures of books. They wrote a little blurb about it. They used it as a little menu for the kids to pick which book they wanted them to read. And so I love that community piece. I love that the high school hostess students are in touch with all the elementary kids. Like, what a great way to get the kids excited about what's to come in their educational career. And then that kind of segues into the next slide as we talk about igniting curiosity and questions. My student on the left just got back from the National Mall. All year we've spent time actually with Park Ranger Jen in that picture, but always virtually. I've only met Park Ranger Jen one time in person in 2021. And so I've had 2 students now meet her since I met her in person, but James went and visited with his family, and they were able to connect with her. And, we've had so many virtual events with her. We've celebrated Lincoln's birthday, and we learned about the construction of the Lincoln Memorial. And we've celebrated with Edith Lee Payne and the anniversary of the March on Washington. And so for him to take his family there on a trip and then be able to talk through all of the stone that was used to construct the Lincoln Memorial. And, he's 10 years old being able to do this and then meet Park Ranger Jen in real life. It comes full circle, right? No one told him he needed to go there, but he was so curious based on everything we'd learned in class. And we're talking a lot of social studies stuff here, right? And so again, STEM, right?
Yep.
It's everything. But what's going on in the middle, Elaine?
Well, I was thinking about this one today about curiosity and questions. And I just want to tell educators out there that are listening, we don't know the answers. Like I get the greatest questions and I have to look at them and say, I don't know. Let's look it up. And I do it a lot. I do it every single day. And I think that I think that we can get trapped into thinking it's a sign of weakness, that we have to know the answer before them, and we kind of get ourselves worked up. And I look at the kids and I say, hey, let's look it up. You look it up. And then all of a sudden, the kid in the front row is like, hey, Ms. Townsend, did you know such and such? And I had no idea, but it's okay. And my kids have learned in my room, it's okay. I don't know everything. I know a lot of things. I've been teaching these subjects for a long time, but boy, they ask me stuff that's cutting edge. I'm like, there's a lot of times I'll say, you have to go ask so-and-so. You have to, they asked me a physics question. I'm like, you got to go across the hall. I have no idea. And I just want teachers to understand it's okay to not know. It's okay to say, hey, I'm going to look it up. That's what you're supposed to do. And I'm going to look it up. So the middle's Taylor. Taylor is in my HBS class. She's one of the most curious kids going, and she gets going, and she just one question after another question. And there's a lot of days that I just have to say, Taylor, I'm going to look it up. Let's look it up. Or how about you look it up and then you let me know. So what do you think, Dayna?
Well, one of the little tidbits I was going to say is, in order to help you embed or dive deeper into STEM on your daily, is start the day with it. So like, if you do a morning meeting, because we do in the elementary a lot, is we do a morning meeting and we connect together. Well, set the precedence for your day. So one way I do it might be a question on the board, and they have to write their answer of what they think it is and put it on the sticky note. And then we have a discussion in order to set the tone. Or they may have to look at a really weird picture that might be something that's going to be about what we're going to talk about that day. They might have to, like this little girl is looking closely at a bug, because on Short U, I had bug day and we investigated bugs. So we had this whole discussion of what we notice about the bug to set the tone for our day. And then we investigated and did research and found out more things about bugs. The other thing is, when we did the all family, we actually did research and tested different types of balls that you play with. Which one will bounce higher? Is it a golf ball? Is it a ping pong ball? Is it basketball? Is it soccer ball? Volleyball? We did all of that, and we tested to see which one would be higher. Their predictions were only one person predicted the actual item that was going to bounce the highest out of all the balls. And then they had to then create their own ball after watching a video on how it's made, how a baseball is made. And then they had to create their own ball. They could choose between 5 products, like a sock, aluminum foil, plastic, another type of ball, and then they could wrap it with things. They could wrap it with rubber bands, and then the girl in the middle is standing on something. They all tested theirs to see how high their balls would go, and the highest in the class.
That's great. So I just think about, they're going to remember this forever. Think about the things that you really remember vividly in your life. These girls on the left showed up, one day at school in the same exact shirt, and, it has to do with bees and pollination. And they're like, this should be like our class shirt, we have a uniform or something. And I love that. They're like, can you please take a picture of us? Those things, they're building this community. And I know we work really hard at that. And it's an everyday thing. It's not just the first week of school, it's every day. And then the kids are wearing their newspaper shoes. So we partner with the Hendricks Recycling District, and they provide some STEM activities for us once a month. But we also participated in a shoe drive with them, along with changing footprints. And so part of it was taking what we learned about shoes and how we can keep shoes out of the landfill, and then using recyclable materials, and how can you build a pair of shoes that will actually withstand first a walk to the office, right? So that was our first part. They had to walk to the office and back, and their shoes had to make it. And that's just where I was going to stop. And of course they're like, no, everybody made it. We have to have people lose.
Right.
So let's wear them at recess. You have to make an entire recess playing and see whose shoes actually stood up to the normal wear and tear. So they did. They played at recess. I have these hilarious videos of the kids trying to play basketball, but I'm like, please don't be too aggressive. I don't know how I would explain this injury to your parents, that I let you play in newspaper shoes. So it was really funny to watch them play Foursquare. And so anyway, I know they're not going to forget any of these things. So anyway, Elaine, bring us home here.
Well, and that you get into some of these high school topics, and it doesn't matter what the subject is. If they get a chance to experience it in a different way, it's a lasting memory. It's a whole different part of your brain than just learning words and dumping them. And so for classes like mine, where you've got to understand the content and how it's all tied in a web, and for the entire year, you can see the boys here, they're crafting, and they actually made a phenomenal poster out of 2 boys. I mean, the handwriting was bad, but that's how that goes. But they remember because they modeled it, because they made a video, because they discovered something on their own. These very challenging concepts, because they got to take their own blood pressure maybe one day. They have a better understanding of what does that mean. And so obviously the 3 of us are so passionate about STEM. But they learn better. I've done it the other way. I've done it where I lead the room and we redo the same problem with a new chemical in it over and over again. And I think, wow, we rock this. And then a month later, they don't have a clue. Or they get to mix chemicals. We've done it with the little people when we come to them, and they get to see a chemical reaction, and bam, it's there forever. And I'm with Karisa. The memories go home with them, and they flash back and say, oh yeah, I remember. I know that Dayna's daughter, Livy, would always say to me, I remember that anatomy because I put it on my mannequin. I built it with clay, and I can remember the day I built it in clay. And, but they do. It's a whole different part of their brain that they use, whether they make a song up or create a flip or something. So anyway, we're up next in April. It's going to be an adventure in April. On April 10th, I'm actually at Host Estate. So we're going to try to do this on the road because we figured, why not? This is what STEM is, right? You take them for a new experience. So we're going to talk about assessment. And I will tell you, from the time that we discussed doing assessment in the fall to now, I've totally changed my thoughts on assessment yet again, to make it easier for us to just make sure kids understand. I say all the time that if I could just assess like Dayna, where I'm in the room and I'm like a 1, 2, 3, you got it, you don't got it, it would save our lives. But, we don't. We got to give grades. Parents want grades. So that's where we're at next. And Chris, I'll let you finish us out here.
Sure. We do love your feedback. We are building a community. So part of the feedback form is sharing your contact information with us so we can connect with you on Instagram and Twitter, or just connect and share ideas back and forth. That really is what we love most about what we do. And so if we can ever help anyone, or you want to collaborate on something, we are happy if you reach out to us. Thanks for tuning in to this longish episode. We said we do 30 minutes. We just can't do it. Anyway, it is so fun to catch up. It is really fun to collaborate, and we're all in this together. So thank you for being with us tonight.
YaySTEM.
YaySTEM.